Hello and welcome. I'm Dee Wallace, Senior Fellow with the Aspen Institute's Economic Opportunities Program, and I'm so pleased to have you join us here for our first Workforce Leadership Café. I'm here with my colleague, Sheila McGuire, also a Senior Fellow at the Aspen Institute, and we'll introduce you to our guest in just a second. We're launching this series of conversations with leaders in the workforce development field who are interested in the state of what we call the workforce, or those practitioners that are working hard to connect people with economic opportunity. And so we're going to be doing a series of informal conversations over the fall and winter with leaders who are going to share their insights and experiences with us. First, before we get started, though, just a review of our tech. All attendees are muted. If you would like to, and we encourage you to provide your perspectives or ideas and questions as we're going, please use the chat function, or at the bottom of your screen, press the Q&A and submit a question. Closed captions are available. Just click at the bottom of your screen again in order to enable those for you. The session is being recorded, and we will be making that available through email and also on our webpage. And then if you have any technical issues, please chat to us in the chat box or send a message to eopprograms@aspeninstitute.org. So let's grab our coffee and get started. We're here as part of the Aspen Institute's commitment to leadership development in economic opportunity and the workforce development field. We have sponsored over the past couple of decades leadership academies at the national and the local level to support fellows who are working in their communities on systems change and sector strategies. And this past year, we've partnered with 8 communities across the country who responded to an RFP, who wanted to bring an academy to their communities. The academy is a 10-month peer learning community where leaders across the workforce development ecosystem in local communities come together, from community colleges, from nonprofits and community-based organizations, from business associations, public agencies, philanthropy, economic development, all the different kinds of organizations that are engaged in the local workforce development ecosystem. And they come together, learn together, and create action plans together, all working through lenses of systems thinking, racial equity, and personal development. Personal leadership development. Our partners that we've been working with across the country this year, who are actually delivering academies themselves in their local communities, come from a wide variety of different kinds of organizations and different vantage points in their community. And we want to hear from them. We want to hear from them about their own personal leadership experiences and their own rights in their communities and leading these academies. And we want to hear about what they're learning about the state of the workforce in their communities and the things that we need to think about going forward as we look at talent development in our field and job quality in the workforce development field. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our guests today who are running the Southern Arizona Workforce Leadership Academy. We're joined today by Amanda Abens, who is the Dean of Workforce Development and Lifelong Learning at Pima Community College, and Tennille Penaloza-Hagen, who is Project Manager for Workforce Development at the Center for the Future of Arizona, or CFA. We'd also like to just take a moment and thank Holly Kurtz from the Center for the Future of Arizona, who is out on medical leave right now, doing well, but she couldn't be here with us today. So let's get started by asking our guests to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your organizations. So Tennille, let's start with you. Tell us about you and your role at the Center for the Future of Arizona.
Thanks, Dee. Hi, everyone. My name is Tennille Penaloza-Hagen. I am the project manager for our Workforce Development Initiative at Center for the Future of Arizona, or CFA for short. It's quite a long name. CFA is a non-profit, nonpartisan do tank. So what is a do tank? We are committed to working on research-based ideas and putting them into action. We identify unmet needs, as well as new possibilities. We deep dive into research, and most importantly, we turn groundbreaking ideas into reality. So we bring Arizonans together to create a stronger and brighter future for our state. This is through survey research reports, our Arizona progress meters, as well as our impact initiatives and programs. We listen most to what matters to Arizonans, and we share trusted data about how Arizona is doing in priority areas. The areas we work in is civic health, education, and workforce development.
Thank you. Amanda, what about you and Pima Community College?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dee, for having us here today. I'm so excited to be part of this conversation. So I work with Pima Community College, which is in Tucson, Arizona. I am honored to serve as the Dean of Workforce Development and Lifelong Learning. We are the only community college for our county. So we are in the southern part of Arizona, about an hour north of the Mexico border. Our county serves about 1 million folks. People think of Tucson usually as a small community. We like to say we're one of the big small towns out there. We're not, with 1 million residents, we're not so small. But we are the only community college to serve our region, which does include 2 Native American reservations as well. We serve the Pasquayaqui tribe and the Tohono O'odham tribe as well. We are a Hispanic serving institution as well, reflecting our community. And we serve a community that is largely in poverty, unfortunately. And about 75% of our learners are part-time, and the majority of them are working at least 1 job. And as in working in workforce development, we really work at that intersection of achieving our college mission, which is to serve every learner every day for every goal, and the intersection of that of working with business and industry to ensure that our business and industry have the workforce they need today and tomorrow, and ensure that we're really creating economic development and social mobility for all of our county residents.
Thank you. We are so pleased to be working with both of your organizations. Recently, we published a piece called "The Cobbler's Children Have No Shoes," where we raised the question of whether the workforce development field is able to treat itself as well as we hope employers are treating the job seekers that we serve. We argue that it could be beneficial for the workforce development field, for the practitioners in the field, to have a real talent development strategy of its own as we work to encourage other employers to create more economic opportunities. I'm interested in hearing from you, both of you, why you think intervening at the leadership level in the workforce development field could make a difference for our field and creating economic opportunity, when arguably frontline workers make up more of the workers in any industry. What's your take on leadership development in the field, Amanda?
So leadership development, I think, is so incredibly important for us to be able to achieve our goals, for us to be able to work together as an ecosystem. You have to have leaders that have the time to do that and are doing that intentionally, and are doing that by being informed by what is happening out there, what are best practices, what's the latest and greatest in innovation. Workforce development, we like to say, is not for the faint of heart. It is not easy. It is difficult. It is challenging, kind of sometimes back-breaking work. And we all get so involved and we're so committed to this mission that we have, because we have a lot of work to do. Our communities need us. And we often are so entrenched in just doing the work every day and doing the good work that we often don't take that time to develop our leadership skills that can really help advance us to be able to do that work better, to be able to reach those outcomes better. Things like partnerships take time. Strategic planning takes time. It takes skill. We aren't just born knowing how to strategically plan or how to partner. Those are skills that we all need to learn and practice and hone. And, one of the things that I see, and I'm fortunate to work for an organization that really takes leadership development and professional development. They really put that as a priority and an importance. And I've had the ability and the honor to engage in my local community as well as nationally. And one of the things that I see, especially in partnership work, is that we're all, again, just so engaged in doing the work every day that we're often not getting down to really working at the strategic level, that we really often are just working at alleviating the symptoms. What's the latest funding opportunity we have? What's the latest project? And we're not really getting down below to some of the root causes to make long-lasting change. And leadership time and leadership development, like through the Aspen Leadership Academies, can really give us that opportunity to do that and develop those skills.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate how you talked about the symptoms. We talk about the iceberg model of systems change a lot, and what I'm hearing you say is that we're so busy doing the work at the tip of the iceberg that we can't get below the surface often in advance. Tennille, what's your take on that? What do you observe about that?
I really felt when Amanda shared that workforce development, this sector, this industry, it's hard work, right? And it takes partnerships, collaboration, strategic planning, which takes time and dedication. And I think it takes time and dedication. And it's one of those things where, like, as we're moving through the times in society and trying to create a brighter future for no matter where we are in this world, like, we're also learning as professionals. We have to rely not only on, there's great opportunities like the Academy, but also ourselves. And also the partnership and collaboration helps break up the siloing. And I think that's super powerful when it comes to about professional development opportunities for workforce development professionals, because that is something that so often we're like, oh, this is happening for me. And I want to do this, but I don't know where to go here. And then you meet someone by chance. And sometimes it happens in conference and summits, and that's great too. But I think if we're opening more of those lines that we can connect together instead of just remaining siloed with each other, I think is super helpful to the overall trying to continue changing the workforce development for the better, workforce ecosystem for the better.
Mm-hmm. Hearing you talk about the silos and leadership in those silos, what do you observe in the fellows as they go through these leadership journeys in community, and what do you observe in yourself as leaders in this work in your communities, trying to make that struggle, deal with that struggle?
I think one that was comforting to me was that we have all shared this feeling of just imposter syndrome. And we're here together doing the work, trying to make change, but the back of the heads, right, we're second guessing. We can spend all day trying to figure out where that comes from, where was that turning point, like in my life that happened. But at the same time, it's like realizing that we're all brave enough to share that. That was like a really, I think, I don't know, like in a very inspirational moment that we shared with our fellows, that we had all felt this at least one point in time, if not continually. And then we're all in here together. So how can we continue doing the work we love while also trying to help each other with our imposter syndromes along the way.
Wow, that really landed right here for me to hear that. It's surprising to me. I look at folks like you, I look at our fellows, and I'm totally intimidated and in awe of them. So it's like that really lands and strikes me that people like you could feel imposter syndrome, because I'm just totally intimidated by you. Amanda, do you experience anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it triggers it. Sometimes those compliments trigger it too, frankly, right? And it's indeed don't, and I love the compliments and I appreciate it. And you know how I feel about you, Dee, as well, and you and Sheila, just to have such great respect and admiration for everything that you've done. But sometimes it can feel like, really me. And I think we all have that and experience that. And it is good to have that camaraderie with other folks and hear in the struggles that everybody is dealing with. And it can be challenging. You know, as we build up our network, it absolutely helps us very much. And we find folks to mentor, and we find individuals to mentor us. I think those things are incredibly powerful as well too. But we often also work in some very political systems, whether it's internal to our own organization or in our region. And that can be a challenge as well too, to sometimes talk through things with and talk through ideas. I like to think of it as I'll often ask for somebody to be my thought partner on something, and talk through something with me. But sometimes, you know, sometimes my network is just not who I need for that. And one of the things that really works for me and helps ground me is having that network that is not just within workforce development or higher education, that I have individuals in my network who are leaders, whether they're my friends or professional contacts that are in a different line of work. It helps ground me, especially higher education is steeped in a lot of tradition. And we like to kind of just reinvent ourselves. We're not always the best at always innovating. And for myself and us at Pima Community College, innovation is at the heart of what we do every day, and having those other individuals to reach out and be a sounding board. And I can run ideas past them, and they're not entrenched in all of the things I'm entrenched with, or I don't have to worry about that political aspect with them. I can really feel like I get some great, honest feedback. And that really helps my leadership development to have that wide circle of a network.
Well, thank you both for sharing so much of yourselves that way. I really appreciate that. Sharing about your own practice as leaders. Let's turn to your organizations. Now, I mentioned that you, CFA, and Pima Community College are partnering to deliver the Southern Arizona Workforce Leadership Academy. Each of your organizations in their own right are well-established, well-respected, incredible capacity, very prominent, and yet you choose to partner in this academy, to deliver this academy. Why? Tennille, CFA has even had experience with an academy before in Phoenix. Why did you choose to partner this time?
We chose Pima Community College just because they are in the work of, you know, system change. And I think it is super helpful when you are working with another organization that understands, you know, not only like, yes, the iceberg model, but also understands, you know, like we can work together in the sense that, like, yes, we have smaller parts we need to fix, but what is that we can focus on to create the bigger change? And also just recognizing that Pima Community College, you know, not only are they such a strong institution for Southern Arizona, but also nationally as well. And we are so We are so grateful for their partnership throughout this 10-month academy, and we're looking forward to the future with them.
Mhm. Thank you. Now, Amanda, Pima Community College, the academy is a peer learning community. Pima Community College is literally an educational institution. Why did you need to partner for something like this?
Such a good question. One, because we know that we can't do anything without partnerships. We really can't. You know, one of the things, being the only community college in our community, we often deal with that kind of pressure of trying to be all things to everybody, which we just can't. We just can't do it. And so partnership is the answer. And Center for Future of Arizona is an amazing partner, not an unknown entity to us. We have been working with the Center of Future of Arizona for a very long time. And the work they do is just phenomenal. And so when this opportunity came up, it really was, it's that, you know, walking the talk of partnership in a workforce ecosystem. Nobody can do it on their own. So why not do that with a leadership academy and have it be in partnership? We each bring different strengths and perspectives to the table that make it an incredible, rich experience. And then just on a really practical level, it's a lot of it's work to do this. It's incredibly rewarding work. But we all, Tennille and myself and Holly and UD, we all put a lot of time and effort into this. It's a labor of love, but it is a labor. And if we weren't partnering, you know, just on a practical note, it's about spreading the workload too, frankly. And it is just, it's incredibly powerful to do it together and for the fellows to see us working together as an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's while you're talking about partnerships, you remind me of an activity, a kind of silly activity that we do in the academy in the partnering session, where we ask the fellows to write their organization's personal ads, personal dating profiles, as a way to talk about the different institutional strengths that we bring together in this ecosystem. We ask folks to write their dating profiles where they talk about not only the assets that they're bringing to the table, but also the baggage that they're bringing to the table. Amanda, thinking again about Pima as a community college, I'm remembering that over the decades that we've been doing these academies, at one point in time, it was hard to attract community college professionals into these fellowships and the academies. At one point, we struggled to get people to apply to fellows, but things have changed over the past few years, to the point where even a few years ago, Hudson Community College was the host of an academy. What are you seeing is why that evolution in terms of community college engagement?
Yeah, so and I think that I also think of the evolution of Pima Community College and our role in workforce development, and it has evolved over the last several years. I like to believe that we are a leader in workforce development and have devoted a great deal of time and effort to that. But 10 years ago, you couldn't say that about Pima Community College. We have evolved. And I think many community colleges are devoting more time, effort, energy, leadership to workforce development than we have before. You know, workforce development really has been having its moment, and I really am glad to say it's not a trend. I think it really is here to stay. That we've seen the power and the need for this to be able to serve our communities and bring up everybody to be able to have the opportunity to have family sustaining wages in our community. And so I think it's really is seeing that intersection of, again, economic mobility for our residents and the role that a community college plays in that. And again, going back to kind of higher ed, often is very entrenched in traditions and history. We can be sometimes slow to move and change. And I think we're really seeing colleges starting to make those transitions and changes, and doing things differently and innovative, and workforce development and working within a workforce development ecosystem, I think really is starting to evolve. I have the honor of serving on the National Council for Workforce Education Board, and we serve individuals, community colleges, and other individuals serving workforce development needs, including nonprofits. And we're seeing a transition and a change as well to more individuals working in partnerships, more individuals coming to the table, working towards workforce development. So community colleges working with their workforce development entities in their communities, and workforce development entities working with their community colleges, and looking to the community college to be that provider of training and education.
Mm-hmm. Tennille, I wanna ask you something that I've heard you talk about before. In your role at CFA, you play significant roles with the workforce development, but you're also engaged with another leadership academy that CFA is involved with, that it works with the education system, right? Is it with principal development? Could you say a little bit about that, and how you see alignment or differences between working in the education system versus the workforce development system?
Yeah, of course. So it's called Beat the Odds Academy, and it's one of our education initiatives at CFA. And it could be principals, it could be assistant principals, it could be teachers who are either that is the career path they're aiming for, or maybe that's the track that they're on. But the program is that we offer that program to high school districts, and then school districts. And we recognize, that whether it's workforce development or our future and current teachers, and then of course anyone else really in a leadership role, that leadership matters, right? And it's important that we continue to invest and support in leaders and system thinking to help create those system changes that we need, whether it's for a brighter future for Arizonans here, or wherever nationwide, or in our audiences, their home state.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. You mentioned the career pathways for principals, et cetera, people interested in being principals. And it strikes me that one difference between the environments in which that program works and the workforce development environment is the articulated career pathways in the field. It's not quite so structured in workforce development, right? I can imagine in the Beat the Odds Academy, you have cohorts of people who are in the same kind of positions and the same, playing the same roles, and have followed similar career paths. And it's so interesting to me to think about, well, in your cohort in Southern Arizona, you've got people from all different kinds of backgrounds and career paths. Tennille, how did you find yourself here in this workforce development field?
A great question. That's something I keep asking myself now. I'm super happy to be here. I'm happy I figured out what it was that I was trying to get to. So yeah, I have you're right. I went to college. I got my degree in global health. I did not go the two routes that were predicted for that. And then I also got a degree in nonprofit management leadership. I've always been involved, whether I had a career in retail corporate for a while, but I also my other passion was informal education, whether it be like science centers, camps, I would say makerspace education. I thought was my calling at one time. I still think it is. But the I've always knew that there was something that I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted to find how can I actually create effective change, even though I know it's going to take time. Where do I need to go? Who do I need to work with? And over time, right, like I thought maybe HR in a retail company, leadership roles in general. But then I realized, with my nonprofit management experience, that that degree and my experience so far is giving me the better understanding of understanding how CFA runs and all the people like our operations team, our development team, and then all our what I like to say our impact team, all the ones who kind of run initiatives like myself. We all have to work together to make sure that I guess the wheels are greased and we're all moving forward together. And that was the same thing with a nonprofit experience as well with my degree. That kind of gave me the understanding when I was studying that, and then also have a background in operations in nonprofits. And then this opportunity came about, and I was really passionate, and I was really happy to be recognized by some of our retailers that we work with statewide, but as well as just knowing that workforce development professionals, this is hard work, but this is where I want to be. And I want to continue to grow and meet people in this field and learn what they're doing and see if like maybe this could be applied here or we can connect on this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That rich background that you have is encouraging to old person like me, to know that you're bringing that rich variety of experiences to the field, and that's something. It's kind of a hallmark of the workforce development field, I think, right? We talk about this a lot, Sheila.
Yes.
It's an interdisciplinary field. Is that what you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, a very interdisciplinary field, which I think makes it in some ways very conducive to career pathways across institutions, but that also becomes an issue in terms of making sure that jobs at all levels have career pathways within the industry itself and keeping the talent that we have. Dee, there's a great question in the chat from Bobby Shaw at the Brown Foundations for Tennille and Amanda. What do you think might change in the workforce system in Southern Arizona as a result of the academy? Addition to some of the changes you've mentioned in terms of connections amongst the cohort.
That's what is most exciting about doing this academy, really, is because it's about leadership development for those of us working in the field, but it really is about taking that into action. In Southern Arizona, we are really good at having a lot of good plans, and we're actually good at coordinating those plans, be it economic development, workforce development plans. We have a number of them from the county and the city and our economic development entity and our workforce board. And again, they're coordinated very nicely, but what we don't do so well is take those plans and go, okay, great. What are we going to do to make this happen? Who's doing what? How are we working together to do it? How are we looking at those plans and really going back to that iceberg model? Really, how are we getting below the symptoms? And how are we really planning in our community to make long-lasting change and being able to do the systems level work together? And so that's what I'm most excited about and see happening. I see the fellows doing that now. They are working together towards that means now. And I really think that we are going to see lasting change in our community and be able to have measurable effects from this, really be able to look at some KPIs that actually come of the change from the fellows and their engagement and their systems level work.
As I hear you talk about the systems level at the Southern Arizona level, and then I hear Tennille talk about how she's enjoyed the role of helping the organization's systems work together. I wonder, Amanda, if you have a perspective on how you've seen Pima look at its own organizational systems, because we see systems change needing to happen both at the organizational level in order to engage with systems change at the big capital S systems level, right? And when you've turned that lens to your own organization, what are some of the things that you've seen evolve?
We've had such incredible leadership here at our institution by our now former Chancellor Lee Lambert and our current interim chancellor, who's been our provost, Dr. Dolores Duran-Cerda. And we really have seen an incredible focus on what the community needs. You can hear that by our mission: every learner, every day, for every goal. And we have been overt, thanks to, again, former Chancellor Lee Lambert, we have been overt in describing Pima Community College as a social justice institution and really taking on that role. And to be able to transform a community and empower our citizens to be able to have that upward mobility, that has to be workforce development, and that has to be a strong focus and putting resources onto workforce development and doing it in a very intentional systems level way that has DEI at the core of everything that we do. And so we really have transformed our institution to operate in very different manners. And to offer programming in different ways outside of traditional higher ed ways of offering programming. And as we've gone about doing that, we really have started to uncover all of those things that really are at a systems level that have been often barriers for us to be able to achieve those. So we have been breaking down barriers and breaking down silos. And again, doing that very intentionally with the support of our leadership.
What's one of those, can you give us an example of one of those things that you've done to break that down?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've developed, we're calling it new models for new majority learners. We don't want to refer to our students as non-traditional anymore. New majority learners, meaning those individuals who are parenting, they may have been incarcerated, they may be individuals of color, they may be Indigenous, working. All of those things, those are who we are serving. And so developing new models for new majority learners, including what we've branded our Pima Fast Track, which is non-credit, quick burst of micro pathways training, all developed within business and industry. And then we also have a model out of Washington State, well-researched model, IBEST, Integrated Basic Education Skills Training, that is also one of our new models for new majority learners. But doing things in different ways, like blurring the lines between credit and non-credit, actually putting on the official transcript of our learners their non-credit learning and their industry recognized credential. Those are all things that break the mold of the systems that we have.
Thank you for sharing that. Our goal is to have these be relatively short conversations. So we're coming to the end of our time. And before you turn to see if there's maybe one question, Sheila, that we want to pose to our panel, I want to ask both Amanda and Tennille, as we close this conversation. Tennille, what is a direction, given your experience in the field and your hopes for the field, what's a direction, what's some advice, what's a lesson that you would encourage the field to take into consideration in order to help us live up to the promise of workforce development?
We need to continue having strategic partnerships.
Mhm.
We need to continue talking to each other, even if like we have fellows like from a healthcare based organization, and one fellow from a mining organization, you know, like that is still, their both roles are in workforce development for their organizations. And then continue those communication channels, especially when it comes to ideas for talent upskilling, talent management, retention, good jobs. And then just understanding, you know, understanding and seeing the value of strategic partnership, and just the importance of how we need to continue investing in workforce professionals for the ecosystem.
Thank you. Amanda?
Other than ditto to everything Tennille just said, very well said, Tennille, very well said. I would say devoting that time to professional development and training specifically on systems level work. That is, again, you know, it's not always something that that we know about, we know how to do. And again, we're so just busy day to day. We need to devote time. There needs to be time devoted to be able to address the systems level work.
Thank you both. Sheila, is there anything that we need to make sure to address from chat? Sheila, you're on mute.
There's one kind of question. One thing that often happens with an academy is people walk in the room and they say, I've heard of all these people, I know these names, or I've never heard of these people. I've been working in this field for a long time, and these, just highlight any little thoughts of the connections you're seeing happening across this very, you know, interdisciplinary, siloed, can be difficult. Just anything that strikes you, specific little connections that you, that warm your heart as leaders to see that are being made.
Oh, wow. You know what? I feel like we've had that since day one. Every time that we get together with the fellows, that we see that there are, from the, I've only seen you on Zoom to now I get to see you in person, and isn't this wonderful? To the hearing the fellows talking to each other and going, I didn't know you worked on that too. I'm working on a project very similar. We have to get together and talk about it and plan together. We had our state sponsored a workforce development event up north from us in Phoenix. And it was like a reunion. Without knowing it, we had so many of the fellows in the room. We did a group picture. And so it just, every time they're together, whether we're together virtually or in person, you're seeing those pieces. You're seeing them at events. I see people at events that I didn't see at events before. So I'm seeing folks engaging more in the ecosystem that may have been on the periphery. I'm seeing them come in more and meet more people and engage in planning more than they had been before.
Thank you.
Ditto to what Amanda just said. I think it's one of the things I get excited for too, when it's a session or a collab day with our fellows, even when it's virtual, just seeing them and then hearing their excitement and all the questions they ask and the curiosity. And that also helps me remind that, like, when I'm at summits and meetings with other workforce developments, that like I can carry that same energy. And I can be in that moment and be present. And so I just really think it's a great, the Academy gives that space and time for the fellows, for workforce professionals to really let all the content sink in and come up with their great ideas that they're currently working on.
Thank you. And as we come to a close, thank you both. Thank you, Tennille. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining us today and for contributing to the development of our field. Thank you for sharing of yourselves personally, as well as sharing of your organizations. And thank you for kicking off this series of the Workforce Leadership Cafe. We're going to be having cafes through the fall and winter. So everyone, please register for that series where you can join us for some coffee and listen in on some conversations that we're going to be having with philanthropy, talking about funding in their local communities. We'll be talking about a workforce board and how are they able to do this kind of work. We'll be talking with the Chamber of Commerce and with some statewide professional organizations. So please join us throughout this series and help us contribute to the thinking about the workforce and the development, the workforce development field. And thanks to our amazing Aspen EOP Con staff for all the support on this. We look forward to continuing to engage with you all on this conversation. And we just thank you for all of the work that you're doing. So all the best for a great weekend. And again, thank you for joining us in the cafe. Hope to see you again soon.